Hello everyone, welcome to my review of The Amazing Spider-Man. That's right everybody, it is time to continue my Spider-Man review series. I've already covered the first 3 Sam Raimi films, and now I'll be covering The Amazing Spider-Man, which is actually a first time watch for me. My background for this movie was, when it came out, I absolutely refused to see it. And until a couple of days ago, I had never seen it. But I refused to see it because I was so attached to the Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man that I was just not ready for a new version of it. And thank God I did not see this movie when it came out, because I would have definitely disliked it a lot more if I saw it when it came out. And if I wasn't with my new girlfriend watching this movie for the first time, it would have been so much more boring than it already was. Do I hate The Amazing Spider-Man? I do not. I just found it extremely boring and kind of bloated for the runtime of this movie in terms of Spider-Man's origin story that we had already seen 10 years earlier. I'll just get it out of the way right now. My favorite scene by far in this entire movie is when Spider-Man saves that kid in that car dangling on the bridge. When I saw that and he webs him up, I was like, oh shit, that was actually a good moment. That is a moment that I would rewatch over and over again. And Andrew Garfield's acting was extremely good there. I really like how he was able to calm the child down. I really actually liked it. I thought taking off the mask in that case was actually pretty smart. And I thought Andrew Garfield's acting there was really good, which is the one thing I'll say. He's definitely a lot better at Spider-Man, in my opinion, than he is at Peter Parker. When he's Peter Parker, he's kind of like he has a hangover in a lot of scenes. But when he's Spider-Man, I feel the charisma. I do. It might just have something to do with the writing. But that's just a little moment that takes an hour and 14 minutes to get there. I'm not about to sit through the beginning of that movie to get to that part. I will just rewatch that part on YouTube, because that was easily my favorite scene in this entire movie. Caught me off guard. I actually did not see it coming. That being said, that is not an encounter with the Lizard. I took some notes of when certain parts happen throughout this movie. The important parts. It takes like 55 minutes for him to even get the costume in the first place. Just to have him swing onto a building, see his reflection, stand on top of it, all cool, and then get a call from Aunt May, which he answers. So I think about getting eggs or bread. Really? 55 minutes to get to Spider-Man's costume just for that? It takes an hour and 3 minutes for Dr. Connors to even take the serum for him to become the Lizard. And they only establish that he has to do it because Norman Osborn's dying, and we never see him, and he wants to regrow his arm. And things go wrong. Typical. But it takes that long to get to it. It takes an hour and 34 minutes for that school fight, for the first actual fight in this entire movie, out of only like 2. At least with the villain. And that is for a 2-hour and 7-minute movie. You see why I found this movie kind of boring? Nothing really happens for a good chunk of this movie. I mean, you're going through Spider-Man's origin story. Does it really take that long? I said in my Spider-Man 2002 review that it only takes like 25 to 30 minutes for both Spider-Man and the Green Goblin to get their powers and we see their origin story. Already, there was no reason for this movie to have existed. But what happens before all of that? Aunt May worries all the time. They make a whole new origin story for why Uncle Ben gets shot, and Spider-Man never finds the killer. He stops trying after a 10-minute montage. It's like they didn't want to use the great power with great responsibility thing for why he becomes Spider-Man. In my opinion, it looks like it's when he saves that kid that he decides that he wants to use his powers to save people, but it doesn't really even imply that. It just shows his reaction to it, and it has that epic music, and it's like, oh, now he's figuring out who he is. The with great power, with great responsibility message for Spider-Man's origin story, that's already perfect. You know, they said this was going to be an untold story. They were fucking right. I mean, honestly, I'm struggling to remember what even happens before he even gets the costume in this movie. I mean, Gwen Stacy has a crush on him. That's about it. There's no character development given to Gwen Stacy at all, I guess, besides the fact that she works at Oscorp, which I didn't know was a thing in this movie. And I'm telling you, it feels like they just inserted the whole father had a secret mission type thing, I guess, with Dr. Connors. So not only can we have a connection to Dr. Connors with the Lizard, but also so they can imply that his father is the reason why he gets bitten by that genetically altered spider. But it literally just takes all that time just to get through Spider-Man's origin story, and for what? because they wanted a reboot of Spider-Man's origin story. And honestly, when it got to that point, when Captain Stacy and Peter Parker were debating about whether Spider-Man is good or not, while I was watching this movie, I literally just said right out loud, this scene only exists in this movie because J. Jonah Jameson does not. And I didn't even listen to the conversation, honestly. I was like, I'd rather hear J. Jonah Jameson say it. I really would. You know, I would say the first maybe 10 to 15 minutes of this was actually not that bad. It wasn't as bad of a beginning as I thought it was going to be. There were actually a few moments that I kind of chuckled at, and there was actually a few moments in there that I thought was, you know, okay. However, then I think about it. You know, it takes about that long to even get to, again, the Green Goblin and Spider-Man's origin story in the first one. So that kind of negates it right there. But really, guys, for an origin story, it's like I've seen Batman Begins. I've seen Spider-Man 2002. I've seen The Joker. There are so many better origin stories out there. Even in reboots, I'd have to assume. But honestly, this movie was a whole lot of nothing to me, honestly. It was pretty boring, and I didn't go into it thinking I was going to be like that. And I did not go into it wanting to be like that. I did not go into it wanting to hate this. I was like, okay, it was a failed franchise, it was a failed trilogy, and so let's see if the first one that they made is the better one. And it probably is, but honestly, just the fact that it was so boring, it's just, I definitely cannot forgive this movie for that. But let's just talk about the ending of this film. I don't hate it necessarily. I don't think the final battle is too bad, but I gotta be honest, I really don't understand why Gwen Stacy's dad decides to join Spider-Man in the end. I honestly can't tell you. He assaults a whole bunch of police officers as they're trying to arrest him, and Dennis literally is just like letting him come closer, and then just like drops his gun there and tells everyone else not to shoot. I honestly don't understand. When he does team up with him though, it does feel like there's some emotional weight there, so it's kind of weird to me, but that's just how I feel about that. But the final battle is okay. I kind of actually like the fact that Dr. Connors still shows his humanity by saving Spider-Man, even though he could literally just turn around and just crawl right back up. I found that extremely funny. But then he realizes that Gwen Stacy's dad is her, and so I kind of like that he at least told him that and he remembered that, so his humanity is still kind of there, except for the end credit scene. But that's okay. But other than that, I mean, the city moving cranes so Spider-Man can swing over to the Oscorp Tower, I mean, they didn't really make the city a character at all. They never showed him supporting Spider-Man, and they never showed him hating Spider-Man. So, I really don't know. I think it could have been a lot better. Even the swinging in this wasn't really that good. I liked some of the shots when it showed it from his wrist as it like connects to buildings and such. Some of those were cool, but the overall swinging, so much better in the Sam Raimi trilogy. So much better. But then he decides to not be with Gwen Stacy because her dad told him to. And then like 5 minutes later, he's just like, yeah, but those are the best kept secrets. Those are the best secrets to break, or whatever he says. So it's just like, so you're just not going to then. And I don't even know he doesn't in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which, God help me, if that is worse than this, which it probably fucking is. But all in all, guys, I really don't understand the existence of this movie. I don't understand the point of this movie. It feels heavily like a product and not a film. That's it. They had a mandate. They wanted to cater to people who didn't like Sam Raimi's trilogy. They wanted to make this a new story, an untold story. We're going to show Peter Parker's parents, something they never did in the Sam Raimi trilogy. And we're literally going to do nothing with it. And we're going to take over half the movie to get to the villain, the hero, and the first fight in this entire movie. I honestly don't know what they were thinking. And again, I didn't go into it wanting to dislike it as much as I already thought I was going to. I didn't. But rewatching, I was just like, holy shit. For a 2-hour and 7-minute movie, it takes too long for him to become Spider-Man. And not even for the same reasons that Sam Raimi did. Which, I understand if they didn't want to copy it. But guess what? Y'all made this movie. So, I don't know. That this movie was pretty boring to me, except for a couple scenes, and when Spider-Man saves that kid, easily my favorite part of the movie. So therefore, I'm going to give The Amazing Spider-Man a C. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it's definitely not very high on the list either. So what do you guys think of The Amazing Spider-Man? Is this a disappointing movie for you as well? Or are you someone that actually likes this movie? Please, let me know in the comments below. But as always, thank you very much for watching. I will, of course, be continuing my Spider-Man review series with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. God help me. But guys, please consider supporting my channel. I would absolutely appreciate it. Please consider clicking that subscribe button. Like, comment, share this video, please. Once again, thank you very much. Agent out.